Do you resist the schedule or any type of routine because it's just not something you do? Are you one of those people that say, I like to fly by the seat of my pants? I like to wing it. I just like to be in the moment. If this is you, you are going to love our topic today. My name is Suzanne Hart. I'd love to invite you to Unstoppable Mindset. And our topic today is 3 reasons why structure creates freedom. Now, I know you might be listening and going, how could structure ever create freedom? And particularly if you're one of those people that are like, I don't do a schedule, I don't like routines, I just like to live in the moment. I get you. But this conversation is truly for you if you want to have that happy medium where you can use structure to still feel spontaneous and give you a sense of freedom. This conversation you're going to love if you're someone who wants to maybe speak and take the stage and not have to memorize every word that you say. Imagine having a structure that allow you to do this. This conversation is for you if you might be a speaker and you're looking for a way to kind of know what to say when. You're going to love this conversation because that's what we're going to be talking about. All right. So as you jump on in, I'm going to ask you to do what we usually ask. Let us know who you are and where exactly are you joining us from. Put your name in the comment section so we can see. Give StreamYard the opportunity to let us know who your name is. Also, what I'm going to ask you to do is to also tell me what you do while you're living and who you're called to serve. Who is your divine client? That person that you just love to connect with and provide quality service for. Who are they? Let us also know what brought you out this evening. What is it about the topic that possibly attracted you or stopped you if you're listening to the replay? And what are you taking away as you listen? Get it, put comments, put your thoughts in the comment section. And if you have a question, definitely put it in the comment section so we can get it answered. And I'd love to know what brought you here. So what was it about the topic that had you go, I'd love to know this. That would be awesome. If you're listening to the replay, #replay, thank you for stopping and spending some time with us. Also, I know it's a replay, but I'm going to ask you to do exactly what I asked everyone to do. Let us know who you are, where you're joining us from, what you do while you're living, and who you are called to serve. Now, for every single person listening, what I'm going to ask you to do is also to bless a life. This means share it with a friend, share it to your personal page, share it to a group, share it to some individuals who you think this topic is definitely for them. Bless a life. Why do we do this? Because one is when we share information, it becomes more powerful. But also when you're able to get into communication about what you just learned with someone you know, you actually internalize and that new learning goes deeper into you. The best way to learn something is to share it and explain it to someone else. So that's what we're about. Also, why are you putting your name and all your information in the comment section? Because this is your opportunity to network. This is virtual networking at its best. We give you an opportunity to connect with someone you don't know. Someone might see your information in the comment section and say, wow, I want to get to know this person. This is exactly what we're talking about. All right, I'm excited to get this party started. As I said, my name is Suzanne Hart. This is Unstoppable Mindset, and my topic today is 3 reasons why structure creates freedom. You're going to love this conversation if you're someone who likes to wing it, fly by the seat of your pants, but you also would love to have a kind of something that tells you what to do and what to say and when to say it when you take the stage. We're really still in our storytelling series, and we're going to talk about a talk structure and why structure actually creates freedom. Now, let me tell you about the beautiful person who's going to be joining me today. I love this woman's energy. You know, when you meet someone and from the moment you meet them, you know they're going to be up to big things in the world. This is one of those people. So she's an author, and she's an author of a book that's been translated into numerous languages. She is a speaker and she is fun on stage. She brings big energy. She's a life and Enneagram coach. She's also a mother of three miracle babies and lives in St. Louis with her beautiful husband. What I love about this woman is her authenticity. I kind of feel like what you see is what you get. And like me, she likes to have fun. So please help me welcome to the stage the courageous coach, Heather Bunch. Hello.
Hey, hello, Suzanne.
Hey, how are
Oh,
you?
wonderful. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. I am so excited to sit down with you. It has been a joy to consistently spend time with you over the past 6 months and really get to know this
Yeah.
woman by the name of Heather Bunch.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on with you. It's funny because I got to hear what you were saying about me, which thank you very much. The first time I met you, I'm sitting in a living room and we're talking, and I was like, I don't know how, but I'm going to work with this woman one day. She is amazing. Like, that is you. Like, from, it was almost 3 years ago
Yeah,
now, I
yeah.
think. And yeah, I was just like, I don't know how. I don't know, but I'm gonna get the money and I am gonna work with this woman because she is incredible. And I know you are exactly what I need.
Thank you
So
so much.
thank you.
From your lips to God's ears, right?
Yeah.
Exactly that. So Heather has just completed our freestyle program, and she blew me away with her first keynote as I got to watch her virtually. So I've asked her to come on because we're talking about structure creates freedom. And Heather had a particular fear about speaking that we're going to get into. But before we give you the goods, I want to give you an opportunity to just let people know a little bit about you and how you became the courageous coach.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when you have a name like the Courageous Coach because in reality, it's fear that I have dealt with all my life.
Mm,
And fear has really kept me from what God's called me to do for decades. So I've worked in the church world, like big mega churches, three different ones over the past 30 years. So I was around a lot of speakers, and
mm,
I knew I had a call in my life, but I was afraid to step out. And so always did what was safe. And so the last several years, I was doing a deathbed exercise, so I had to write my eulogy.
oh, fun.
Yeah, and it was so good, and oh my gosh, the stuff I wrote about myself, it was amazing. And I sat there and I was crying, and then I read it back and I went, I haven't done anything on this list for anyone to actually say this stuff about me. I had a dream in my heart to like write Bible studies and speak, and I hadn't done anything. And so it was in that moment that I really started that journey of
Yeah,
stepping really into my fear and doing it afraid. And really, courage is not the absence of fear, but it's doing that thing you're afraid of
yeah,
anyways.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
so when I started doing that, the fear really started kicking in, and really God worked me through some steps and things to overcome fear and just keep doing it. And so through that is actually how I developed what I felt like I was really called to do, and that was to help women live fearlessly free so that they could show up fully themselves,
I
because
love
that was
it.
my fear. I was afraid to like really be Heather, and so that they can fulfill the call that God's put on their life. And the funny thing about the courageous coach is I, uh 13 years ago, moved to the house that we're in now, and I live on Courageous Lane.
Oh, wow.
So that was a happy accident, which I think was more like a God wink that, I
Yeah.
ended up on
It's
courageous lane.
it's time. It's time.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
time. It's time to be courageous, Heather, and you're going to help other people do the same. So,
Yeah, and if you forget, I'm just gonna put you on the street so you see it every day.
yes, exactly. I have to write it down. Yes, I live on courageous lane. People are like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yep."
There you go. There you go. I love what you're saying because um one of the things is I do mindset mastery and I teach speaking and people are like, how did you get into it? And I go, I had to learn to master my own mindset because it was getting in my way of
Yeah.
me doing the things I want, whether it was fear, whether it was doubt, whether it was a conversation that was running me in the background that had been running me for
Mhm.
years. And so the whole process of mastering and unpacking this thing called my mindset was what helped me live courageously.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then speaking, it was the exact same thing. I was deathly afraid of taking the stage. Like
Mm.
I would hide out. I wouldn't even put my hand up in a classroom.
Oh, right.
So total fear. And to get past that, I had to learn some skills. And I also had to find a way to make speaking fun, to make it non threatening, to make it
Yeah.
enjoyable. And that's what I teach. And so we talked about this in our live last week when we talked about how our unconscious competencies or
Mhm.
those are those unconscious competencies that we got through the forged in the fire are often
That's
the
a good
superpower.
way to put it.
Right, right.
Yeah, becomes our superpowers.
And
Yes.
and and it's a superpower that you should be marketing. And I go, and so I know we drop skills plus your unconscious competency equals superpower. And that's
Mhm.
what you do in the marketplace. It's not really your skills that define you, it's that thing that you have fought for that
Yes.
defines you, right?
Yes. That's good.
So let's dive into this
Okay.
topic because I think it's going to be so valuable for so many people. So you enrolled in freestyle,
Yes.
and in freestyle we teach a very clear talk structure and we teach a very clear storytelling structure. And I know for many people, when they hear structure, they're like, "Oh gosh, this is going to be rigid. This is not going to be fun. Someone's going to control my life." That's kind of the things.
Right.
So, what was your definition of structure before you started this program?
So what's funny is I would say my definition of structure was, especially when it comes to talks, is to write it out. All of
Okay.
it. Like
Mm.
like that's the structure. So I had a pattern where you would come up with, here's my main point, and then you would have your supporting
Yeah.
sub points, and then you'd work in the detail from there. But so yeah, it gave you a framework.
Hmm.
But I literally would write everything out.
Yeah, yeah. And that's so common because when we talk to people about structure, they use framework. Most people will write their talks. Most people will um, they will memorize their talks, and they've got this
Mm,
very clear framework that they must follow in their minds.
right.
And so when I talk about we're going to teach you a talk structure, people are like, "Ooh." Or they think they know one, and I'm like,
Yes.
you haven't kind of seen one like this.
Right.
And so awesome. So for everyone listening, um, I we're just kind of unpack what you're probably thinking, right? Is that a structure is rigid, it is written, you write out your talk, you memorize, you do all these things.
Mhm.
We're going to turn that on its head today. So why do you think we resist structure?
Mm. I think for some of them, people don't like to be put in a box. Like,
Mhm.
we don't. We want to be our own person. I think that's kind of like innately in us
Yeah,
to be an individual. I mean, even our fingerprints are all different, right? It's in our DNA to be different.
different, yeah.
So I think if you have one view of a structure, then, then you're going to feel very bound and stuck.
Yes.
And nobody likes feeling stuck.
No, not at all. And I know, when most people think of structure, they think of schedules. They
Yeah.
think of rigid routines.
Yes.
And I think more importantly, they think of that someone has decided what they are going to do, not
Yeah.
them. And
Right.
so for me, when I started looking at structure, um, I realized that over the years, I had put in place my own structure.
Mm.
And it was because I had built it, it gave me a level of freedom. So one of the things I want to redefine for everyone listening is we're not talking about an imposed structure that is so rigid that you can't move it, or shift
Yeah.
it for yourself. We're talking about giving you some pieces that need to be present and you organizing them in a way that best suits you, but actually knowing, like, what the steps are. Does that make sense? Does that clearly
Yeah.
define it for you?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So for me, that's one of the key things I wanted to kind of pull out. And I think the other thing is, I know even when we do the program, I will watch, some people will just jump into the structure and like, "Ooh, this is cool." You were one of those people. You were like,
Mm.
I'm gonna try this on, and
Yes.
I'm gonna go with it." And your trajectory, it was like day one, you were growing, 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 growing. And we
Mm.
just watched you just take off. And we were like, whoa. And then I watched the people, I call them the own way people.
Mm.
Own way.
Yes.
I'm gonna do it my own way. Yes,
Right.
I know I registered for this program. I know I paid
Right. I
money,
paid you money.
but I'm gonna own way it. And they own way it for a minute or two, and then they watch the people who follow the structure going like this, and they're going like this.
Wow.
Right. And then suddenly they're like,
Mm.
they even look like they're having fun. And then they start following the structure. And invariably people are surprised of what becomes available. And so I so agree with you that there's parts of people who it's just like, I'm just going to resist it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some of us resist it more than others. I think,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And so if you are someone listening and you resist structure, and I know you all out there because it's a
Hmm.
big part of the
I'm gonna call
population.
you a rebel. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Put rebel, and you can even put rebel with the cause in the
Right.
comments, in the
Yeah.
comment
Yeah.
section. So we know who you are, because we're gonna invite you into a new way of looking at things. So um how did it feel for you to actually take a structure? So we were talking about a talk structure. What did the talk structure provide for you, and how did it feel?
So it's like it gave me, well, honestly, the word you used was framework.
Hmm.
So it was like I had this framework that I followed, but within it, it's like I needed to hit these key points, but then within that, I had space to be able to play.
Oh, I love that.
You talk about play, and
Hmm.
that is really what it felt like. So it was like, okay, I know I need to hit this and ask some questions here and things like that. But it was like, then as I practiced, and I could just go, oh, that felt good, or no, that didn't feel, so I got to just kind of play around with it. Um,
Hmm.
and it was, as you said, freeing. Because my biggest fear was forgetting what I was going to say. Like,
Yeah.
that was my biggest fear. And because the stage part doesn't scare me for whatever reason. That just,
Yeah.
I enjoy being up there. I enjoy the people. I enjoy interacting. But I was definitely afraid I'd be going along and go, oh my gosh, I can't remember what I was going to say.
I can't remember what I
And then like
memorized.
lose it.
Right.
because when you've memorized something, if you forget one thing, it's like you pulled that little peg out and now you can't. It's like the little ant. Do you ever watch the little ants as they're going along and a leaf falls in the way and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't find the line. I felt like that, where it'd be like, oh my gosh, the leaf got in the way and I can't, where do I go from here?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what it feels like when you memorize, because if you forget something, then you can't find your way back. But when I've got that structure where it was like, I actually, even in my keynote, forgot my second point for a minute.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
I was like, oh. And then it was like, boom, got it. And
Yeah.
then could go on. But I didn't panic because I was like, I know it. And I just gave it a second and it came back to me. And and then I could just work within that.
Mm-hmm.
That was freeing, like to get up there and not be afraid that even if I forget something, it's okay. And maybe I wasn't even supposed to say that one. I said something else that was like, you know what? Maybe that's
Yes, yes,
exactly what
was good.
somebody needed.
Yeah.
But that not being afraid of forgetting, that just let me play and have
Mm-hmm.
fun with it, and it let go of that fear, so
I love it. And I'm very similar because I know that the first few times where I crashed and burned when I spoke was I was told to memorize the information. I needed to know it. And I
yeah.
was so concerned about forgetting stuff that guess what I did? I created what I was concerned about.
Right.
Now what we do? So
Yes.
preoccupied, heart's pounding, knees are knocking, and and then I learned this talk structure and I started using it, and I realized that I didn't have to memorize anything. And like you, I realized I liked being on stage. I realized I liked engaging the audience. What I didn't like was um, having to memorize,
Yeah.
having to recall,
Yeah.
having to, do all these things. And I say to everyone that's listening, is I go, it's interesting that when we're at work or we're in our careers or our businesses, we know exactly what to do. We don't write things down before we say it when we're explaining things to people.
Yeah.
And since we are experts in our field, it was curious to me why we always had to write things down versus just have a structure that allows you to be yourself and
Hmm.
recall things in the way you would if you were speaking to a colleague, if you were explaining something to someone, because we know our stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you feel free, it just flows out.
Mm-hmm.
When you're afraid of, oh my gosh, I got to say this and this and this, you're stifling it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then it makes it hard for that function to just flow.
So, I know so just so everyone's on the same page with us, the structure kind of tells you where to stand when you walk to the stage, how to open as your talk. What are the first three things you should probably say? How to introduce your talk, how to let people know what's coming, how many lessons you should teach depending on how much time. It gives you all that stuff. So it gives you a lot of information. How to begin to close, all that wonderful. How to transition, where your story should be, why you need this story, what your story should include. It gives you all that information. And so what we do is we practice. What do we practice? The structure, right?
Yeah.
And why do you and we practice it because it is if I know the structure and it becomes part of me, I don't have to worry about anything else. So how was that for you?
That was great. I loved, it was really the practice that gave me that freedom to play.
Hmm.
Because you got so comfortable with it that then it created the freedom. So I wasn't worried about, okay, I need to hit this and I need to hit that. We practiced it so many times it became second nature.
Right.
So, and I love that. And honestly, the practice thing was huge. You gave us a safe place to practice and put our stuff out there.
Yeah.
And if we failed, it was okay. Or, if we did great, they would give us good critiques and okay, we can go back and tweak this. And I loved that. I loved having the opportunity to try it out and
Hmm.
go, I don't really know what I'm doing, but to try it out, we're going to do this anyways. And then get feedback and then
Hmm.
try again. And then each time it got more comfortable and more comfortable.
Yeah.
And I could go, "Ooh, I liked that. Oh, we'll remove that part,"
Yeah.
and then it just became the playground. So,
And I think that's key because one of the things that I realize is often for new speakers, often for speakers in general, is the only time they speak is when they're booked. And
mm,
that adds to the nervousness
sure,
because you're not practiced. And
yeah,
our philosophy, my philosophy is that practice, practice, practice. Like I tell people when I first started speaking, I did a presentation every day for 5 days a week for 4 years,
mm,
right?
that's some
And
good practice right
I'm
there.
telling you, 5 days a week for 4 years. And I did it via conference call. 9 o'clock every morning, I would get on and I just started this show and and I started with 6 people. By the time we finished, I had 100 people that would show up in the morning
Look at you go.
I'm telling you, to listen to me. And it just grew, grew, grew. And I challenged myself to not write things down, to just generate
Mm,
content
mhm,
on the flow, right? That like on
yeah,
the fly. So to really freestyle. And but it was the practice of the structure and the practice, practice, practice that when I took the stage, I guess I get nervous, but it's a different type
yeah.
of nervousness.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's like an excitement
Yeah.
nervous,
Yeah.
you know.
It's like, oh, something's about to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know
And
what it
that's the good kind.
absolutely. So talk a little bit about because I know one of the challenges we give everyone is to not write your talk.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons I believe people shouldn't write their talk word for word is we write different than we speak.
Yes.
And so you were a writer.
Mhm. Yeah.
Talk
That's
about the transition of letting go of writing and going into this different way of creating your talks.
ooh, it was nerve-wracking to be honest. Cuz I'm so used to I would call myself some people say they're a verbal processor. I say I process through writing. Like
Mhm.
it goes in my brain, out my fingers, onto the keyboard. Like
Right.
that's how I process. And but you're exactly right that you write slightly different than how you talk.
Mhm.
And so I really challenged myself to not write it all out because that was my comfort zone. I knew I could do that. I knew I
Mhm.
could write it all out and I'd be good and I'd come up with a good flow and but I was like, I'm gonna do this thing and I'm gonna freestyle it. And so I used sticky notes is what I did.
Mhm.
And I would kind of create sticky notes to create my flow. And I would take the talk structure and then do little sticky notes that would go along with it. And then I would play with that. The beautiful thing about it though was as I practiced, because we practiced so much, I didn't I didn't need the notes in front of me, except for I'm going to be honest, I had to keep my sticky note with my questions
Mhm.
and my what's in it for you for a little while for whatever reason. Those were the harder ones for
Yeah,
me to
yeah.
to get comfortable with. I'm not sure why, but that was um actually I do know why. For some reason, there's a story that happened in my head that I freeze when I have to ask questions.
Ah.
And it happened somewhere with leaders. where I would get in front of leaders and I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be asking them questions and nothing's coming. Like, so I'm rewriting that story.
There we
That's a
go.
story I'm
There,
rewriting. Yeah, because
there we go.
yeah, but I love the sticky notes. And then what it allowed me to do is like, because we practiced on camera,
Hmm.
we'd turn in our videos. But as I was prepping for my keynote, I could practice anywhere. So I was walking the dog, practicing my talk. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to focus on, my second point. And I would just work on my
Hmm.
second point and I just talk it out. And that was amazing because I would have never been able to do that before. Because if I practiced, I'd have to sit, okay, with my notes in front of me and go through it that way. So it
Hmm.
freed me up even to where I could practice and
Wow.
when I could practice. And I could utilize the little time periods that I had of, say, walking the dog or I was getting
Yeah.
ready in
Yeah.
the morning or whatever. I wasn't strapped to my notes.
Yeah. My favorite practice space is in the shower, believe it or not, or when
Oh,
I'm
there, yeah,
or when I'm out walking. So I
yeah,
totally get it. What
yeah,
we say that the structure creates freedom. You said that earlier on.
yeah.
What type, when you talk about freedom, can you talk a little bit about the freedom that allows the talk not to be the same every single time?
Oh, man, I think it's like I would just let it come out.
Mm,
I knew where it was going, because I knew what my next point was, and I knew what I wanted to say to transition to it. But before I got to that point, I didn't actually have it exactly formulated in my head, and I literally would let it just come, and I would give myself so I could use the pauses
mm-hmm.
because I've heard it said the power is in the pause.
Yes.
So I would use that pause and then I'm pausing. It's creating a powerful moment, but it also gives me a second to go, oh, I think I'm going to go here next.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it gave me some think time.
Yeah.
Um, and that was really great. Like not being afraid, like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to say next. I just
Mm-hmm.
wait for a second and then boom, it would
And,
come.
and do you find that, I know for myself, when I'm not in memorizing, and I'm not, and in recall. Like I know the story I want to tell, I know what I
Yeah.
want to teach, but I'm generating the in a very authentic way in the moment. I get fed from the audience. So what
Yes.
comes from me is often what I'm seeing and feeling in the audience is actually what
Mm,
directs what you get that day. And so it becomes this really authentic, genuine talk. And when I watched you on stage, your engagement was like high. And the
mm,
audience was laughing and you were talking back to you and doing all these things. And I could see, when I teach it, I say it's like a dance,
mm-hmm.
right? You step back, the audience steps in, the audience steps back, you step in, you pause, the audience fills the pause. You talk, the audience is in pause, and it's just this beautiful thing. And I think when you're generating, and correct me if, or let me know if this is real for you, when you're generating in the moment, the pauses are actually real because they're the
Yeah.
natural places where we pause when we talk. It's the natural places you pause when you ask a question. When
Mm-hmm.
something is funny, you pause and you kind of, it's just like kind of how we really do life, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It really is that having a conversation with the audience. Excuse me.
Mhm.
And I can't plan that. I don't know what they're gonna react to. In my talk I had a little thing where I asked him about a particular movie and I did the music to the movie. Oh my gosh, they got it so fast. I was afraid they wouldn't even get it. But like they got it so fast and then you can interact with that like because they give you something to work with. And
Right.
that was really fun. You could see how they responded to something or they said something and you could even talk at them.
Yeah.
Um And that was great. And you can't plan for those things. Those are natural
Yeah.
when,
Yeah.
you're working with your audience.
And
And I think that makes it more fun for them too.
it makes it that's engagement, right? And that's what I think for me I crave, and that's the feedback that gives me confidence, is when I
Hmm.
get the engagement from the audience. I know that I'm going in the right direction. When
Yeah.
you don't get any engagement from the audience, for me it's like I got to adjust. I
Yeah.
got to shift. I got to do something. And so, our interview today is called Structure Creates Freedom.
Hmm.
And so dive in a little bit about the freedom that this style of speaking has provided you.
Oh man. Uh, I- it, it's liberating.
Mm,
It was liberating. Like okay, I gotta tell you on my keynote, they had a confidence monitor for us, and I'd made up a thing with some basic points and stuff, and I practiced with it, and I went, oh my gosh, I can't do this.
oh, the writer
it
can't do it.
Yeah, it was like flip, it would flip to the end. It was like, well, had I memorized my talk, I would have been freaking out. Instead, I was able to go, I'm not going to use it. I know my talk. And I said, you know what? They got a podium. I'll make a couple notes, do a little a little printout, have some backup just in case. I forgot to tell them to put the podium on the stage.
Oh,
I
okay.
thought it was just going to be there, but it wasn't. It was over on the side. And I was like, not going to work. So literally right before I'm going to get up on my talk, I'm like, I don't have anywhere to put my notes. So I'm like, you know what? They're going to stay on my table. And so that's where they stayed. I'm like, it's okay. I know this and I can flow within it. I would have never been able to do that before. I
Mm,
would have been in a panic going, I have to have my notes. I can't function without my notes. I would have been the person up there going, I got to put my notes somewhere. Can you move the podium? Can you get the podium over here? But I didn't. I was like, yeah, it's all right. It's okay.
I got
And
this.
I and I got, yeah, that's exactly what I felt like. And I got this. And I just went up there and then I was able to flow with it. And oh my gosh, I had so much fun. And there was stuff where there were things where I was like, oh, I want, there was certain lines that I would say that was like, ooh, I like that. I want to remember to say something like that. And then I go along, I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, I forgot to say that. But you know what? It would fit perfect right here. And then I
Mhm.
would just pop it in a different spot. I would have never had that freedom to be able to do that before. It would be like, oh, I forgot the line.
Now what?
And now what? Yeah, I can't put it anywhere. Darn it, and then I'd be beating myself up later because I didn't do the certain line. Um, that was so liberating. I
Mm.
cannot tell you how good that felt. Especially being so afraid of forgetting what you're going to say, that I got up and did a 40-minute keynote with no notes.
And the audience loved you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and what was the end result? Because you had a desire that you kept
Mm,
in your back pocket.
I did.
So share.
I had a desire in my back pocket that I honestly had given up on.
Oh, wow.
I did. That I got an opportunity to. I'm going to get to speak at a ladies' event for our church, um, and that was something that I had desired for years, and I'd given up on that idea. I was like, God will open doors somewhere else. It's okay, you know. And um, and right after my talk, that they were like, I was texting the executive pastor, and we're gonna book you for a ladies event, and I, I just cried because it was a dream come true,
Yeah.
and I never could have been as free to fully show up myself with my full amount of energy had I not had this talk structure. and the freedom that it created. And that was what allowed me to show up in my full power,
And
as
that's who they
fully
want.
myself. And that, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because that's when we're at our best, is when we're ourselves. God
Oh,
made us as an individual, and when we can show up fully ourselves, that's when we have fun.
mm-hmm. And it's when we give the best of us. Like I know for myself, I will be on stage, and sometimes the audience will feed me, and
Mm.
something will come out of my mouth, and even I am like, whoa, that was good. Where'd that
Right?
come, where'd that come from?
Yeah, write that down. That was
And I think part of it is because I am so plugged into the present,
hmm
and I'm so engaged with who's in the room, that you know how things can only happen when things align.
yeah.
And so there's something about allowing yourself to be present in the moment, in the room with the audience, that creates magic.
Yes. Yeah. And each time, the beauty of that too is, even if you're doing the same talk to different places, it's going to be different each time because the audience is different.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a different need, or they're going to pull on you different. There may be one thing that jumps out that's going to help draw something else out of you. And
Mm-hmm.
when you have that freedom to be able to allow it to come out, because if you're stuck in the structure that gives you no freedom, there's no space for that. There's no space to be able to
Yeah.
really, it's hearing God and saying something that they need to hear.
Mm-hmm. It's for me, it's like, I always say that God meets me in my talk.
I like that.
When I'm willing to free myself up to listen, he
hmm
meets me in my talk, and he goes to work.
Yeah.
And then things come through me, that is like this divine, beautiful connection. But it can
Yeah.
only happen if I'm present in the moment. And
Yeah.
so one of the reasons I really push for people to, and I tell people, I create speaker trainers, and
Mm,
you can keynote and you can train, because you are able to really engage and pull from the room. And it's when you're in that beautiful sweet spot that co-creation happens with your audience,
hmm
and you create something that couldn't have been done by you by yourself,
Yeah.
or the audience by themselves. It's this
Right.
beautiful create. So I like to say, I'm here to have a conversation. I'm here to facilitate a conversation. And it's going to go in this beautiful place that I'm not exactly sure, but it's a dance between the two of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're getting what they really need.
Yeah, because one of the things we talk about, and just as we close, if you could speak to this, that I always say, the audience is the star.
Yeah.
It's not
That's
you.
right. That's right.
You're
It's
the
we're we're the Yoda
yes,
and they're the Luke.
yes,
To use a Star Wars reference, but we're the guide, helping to guide them. They're the hero. They're the hero in this journey. So,
yes, absolutely. And talk a little bit about what becomes available when you sit in the place of, you are just the guide, the messenger, and everyone in the room is truly the star of this show.
mm, yeah, I think of it like a conduit. Like, I'm just a conduit to help, where it's like, okay, what do they need?
Mhm.
Because can I get up there and talk and have fun? Yeah, totally. Like, because but then I'm just hearing myself talk.
Yeah.
So that's not helping anybody. The whole point is to get up there and to share something that is going to help the people in the audience become who they're called to be and be able to do what they're called to do. So really, it's that conduit of, what is it that they need, and then giving them that.
Mhm.
um, and that listening, and just what's coming up. It just something might come up in your heart, like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to say this,
Mhm.
and maybe it's not even I don't even know if it's sometimes a conscious thing where I think I need to say this. It just sort of comes out.
Absolutely.
Um,
And I think what's beautiful about that is there, you can see when a speaker's attached to their content. I came to deliver this, and by goodness, y'all
mm,
gonna sit and listen
gonna
to
get this.
what I came to deliver. I worked on this.
Right.
And then
I
there's
worked hard on this, darn it. You're
yeah.
gonna listen.
And then there's speaking where you say, I came to serve,
Hmm.
and I've prepared all of this, but we'll see what part of the table you're gonna eat from. We'll
That's
see what
good. It's
you
like a buffet.
right. And so for me, I always come over prepared. I always have more content than I'm ever gonna use. But what it does is it allows me to pull. And sometimes I've prepared 3 points and the whole talk stays in point 1 because
Mm,
I've gotten deeper into point 1 because that's the need of the odd. That's
what
the
they
need of
needed.
the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and I think what we're really talking about when we say structure creates freedom is the freedom to be in the moment and truly serve.
Mm, yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah, because that's what it is. It's all about service. That's what we're called to do, is serve others.
So Heather, 2 things. If someone is looking for the courageous coach, where can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah. So my website is heatherlbunch.com. And that's my on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. It's Heather L Bunch with that middle initial. I suppose I should have wrote it down there, but I didn't. But
We'll
that
we'll
is
we'll
that,
make
by
sure.
the way, is a testament. When you have in your heart you're supposed to do something, you go do it. Because I tried
Mhm.
to get Heather Bunch, and it was available, and then sat on it, and then it was gone, and so I ended up with Heather L Bunch.
There you
Years
go.
later, though, I still actually I have Heather Bunch now, but so either way, it'll make it to me. But yeah, so that's just for those of you that might be procrastinating, that you're supposed to go get a website. Go get it now.
Go do the do.
Yeah,
And we'll make sure that your information is dropped into the comments section because I'm sure there's someone out there that's like, "Ooh, I like her, and I want to find out how to be courageous like her and do the things she's doing." So definitely.
yeah,
And if someone is thinking about registering for Unleash the Power of Your Story, starting their speaker journey, what
mm.
would you say to them?
Go do it. Like, just go figure it out. Go find the money. Go. What I'm gonna be honest. When I signed up, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get the money. But I was like, I knew in my heart that I'm called this week. And I knew that this was what I needed to go to the next level. So
Mm,
that's what really people need to look at, because there's a lot of great programs out there. But if you're sitting there and you have got that in your guts, just like going like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I need. Like, you need to listen to that, and you step out and you do it. And it will be so worth it. And not just the ability to have the freedom, but there's also a confidence that you gain
mhm.
while you're practicing, so that you it helps you. Like, if you're a hider, I joke and I say I'm a professional hider, like, because I love to talk, but I wouldn't put my stuff out there.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They're not going to let you do it, people. And if you need a safe place to practice, like, you've got something that you're supposed to share, but you're like, I'm too afraid to put it out there. Like, not only is this going to give you the structure and the talk structure, which is fantastic on its own, but you also have this amazing safe place to practice and get your stuff out there, to gain confidence,
Yeah,
so that now you can go out and get your stuff into the world. And that is a beautiful thing, because the world needs you.
that's
The
right.
world needs what is in your heart. There are people waiting,
Yes.
waiting for you to get it out there. So go do it. go sign up.
Love it. I love it. We have been sitting down with the courageous coach, Heather Bunch. I will tell everybody listening, this woman is just getting started.
Hmm. Thank
Watch
you,
out.
Suzanne.
Watch out.
Ah,
All right. Well, you have been watching Unstoppable Mindset. I am sitting down with the courageous coach, Heather Bunch. We will be back here next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have another fantastic guest for you. So stay tuned. Another freestyle student that is just in the creative mode and getting ready to rock the marketplace. So we'll give you some insights on
yay.
her learns. Uh, and if you are interested in learning more about freestyle, the first step is magnetize and monetize the virtual stage. We will definitely be putting the link in the comment section. It's a free webinar that gives you an intro to what we've been talking about today. So come check it out. See if it
Yeah,
is for you. And if it is, come on a journey with us, because we will practice, practice, practice. We will help you move from good to great and
yeah,
build that confidence so that when you take the stage, you're like, I got this. I truly got this. Until then, remember, know you're brilliant. Know you are oh so special. And this conversation is important because the world's waiting for you. The
mhm,
world's waiting for you to put your brilliance
that's
into
it.
the marketplace. Take care, blessings, and we'll see you next week.